Hello and welcome to episode 23 of the Sandeman Street Podcast, a podcast about Dundee and Dundee United from fans of both clubs. I'm Andrew, and joining me this week is my regular co-host Jack. Jack, how are you?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm very good, mate. Monday, but we've managed to get through another tough weekend. Another tough weekend of absolutely horrendously shite football. But before we get into that, quick plug for our socials as per usual. We are on Instagram and on Twitter. On Instagram we are at Sandeman ST Pod. That is at Sandeman ST Pod. And on Twitter we are at the Sandeman Street Pod. At the Sandeman Street Pod. If you give us a follow on both them, if you have them, we also have YouTube. Subscribe to our channel, and that would be muchly appreciated. Back to the football though, and before we go into weekend's action, I think it's only right that we touch on last midweek, since we've not recorded since then, a fixture card that was a bit of a Dundee versus Glasgow affair. The game at Tannadice was probably the more exciting of the two, with United drawing 2-2 with Rangers. Rangers scoring with a last gasp penalty equaliser. Jack, what was your thoughts on that game?
Obviously, very disappointing to lose the penalty so late. Thought both United goals were really, really good individual pieces of play. Sapsford manages to run for the halfway line, basically, and manages to chip Butland, and Fata manages to dribble in and around 3, 4, 5 Rangers players and take a shot off and score a really good goal. Obviously, like I said, disappointing to lose the lead so late in the game. I think Rangers were the better team. You could see that in the stats, but I think United will feel hard done by not getting the 3 points.
The quality of our goals, we could even add the penalty as well, because it was a great penalty under that pressure at that time of the match. I mean, Sapsford's goal was probably the harder of the two for the individual to score, but I really liked Fata's goal, jinking in and out of players. I mean, it was a bit pathetic defending from Rangers' point of view, but jinking in and out of players and then slotting it in the bottom corner is just an aesthetically more pleasing goal, I think.
Yeah, Rangers scored another, like you say, Rangers scored a good goal as well. I don't know who hit it, but the boy hit it from outside the box, and Richards didn't really have a chance. I think it was blocked, as the defender blocked the view from the ball, so he didn't really have a chance to react to that quick enough, and it was a good finish by the Rangers boy, to be fair. And the penalty as well, he's done well enough, the keeper's not going to get to it. So yeah, like you said, the finishing through the whole game was pretty good quality.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit of a sickener though for United. Obviously, I think the penalty was given with like 8 seconds left of injury time. What was your thoughts on that penalty award? Did you think? Did you think it was a penalty? Did you think it was harsh? Did you think it was never a penalty? Like, what's your thoughts on it?
I think it's a penalty, mate. I think there is contact there. I think he gets to the ball. The Rangers boy gets to the ball first. I think it's Aaron's. He gets it just before Ferry gets to it. And Ferry does catch his foot. It's not enough for him to fall over or anything. I think he's bought it. I think it is probably harsh. A lot of people have told me they don't think it's a penalty, but there is contact. And yeah, I do think it's a penalty, but it is a harsh one.
See, you might be surprised, or you might not be surprised actually, given how well you know me, but I don't think it is a penalty. I think that you see, when people say, yeah, there's contact, I mean, I could walk past you and touch you with my fingertip on your shoulder, and that's contact. Doesn't mean to say that you're going to fall to the ground and get a penalty.
Yeah, that's true.
He sticks his leg out, and the boy obviously does touch the boy, but the boy rolls around like he's been shot in the ankle. It's a bit of a minter, in all honesty, and I just think there's not enough contact to force the boy to be tripped to the floor.
Yeah.
So, judging by that, I just don't think it is a penalty. But I mean, I seem to be in the minority with that, so there you have it, I suppose. But moving on to Dundee, the Dundee were at Parkhead. They played Celtic, obviously, 1-0 defeat, which you could say is probably a good result given that the differences in the team's budgets, the differences in the quality of each team's players. They had their chance at the very end. It's probably a textbook performance going to Celtic Park. You either keep them at 0-0 or keep them within a goal, and then at the very end you try and get them on the counter, get them with a set piece with a couple of half decent chances, and then Tony Ugan gets down the left hand side, beats his man, great cross into the box for the first time since he signed, and Graham just doesn't get enough on at the header and it goes wide, and you connect with that, you get an equaliser and you get away with a 1-1 draw at Parkhead. You didn't get very many points through there, so it would have been, but probably all in all, they didn't really deserve much out of the game. Celtic had the vast majority of possession. They didn't really cut Dundee up open very much, but I think it's one of the ones where they'd won the previous Saturday. You don't want the whole momentum of that to be killed by getting an absolute booing. And they didn't get a doing, so we'll touch on what then happened later in the week at the weekend, but it was a bit of a positive going into the weekend, shall we say. But since I've speaking about the weekend, we'll move on to that, and United in Paisley to take on St Mirren, Jack. Give me your analysis of that.
Poor game, mate. Poor defending, didn't really seem to create much. My brother was there, and after half an hour he left, mate, he's like, I'd seen enough. I seen we weren't going to win the game. We weren't going to get anything from the game, so what was the point in being there? And it's up to him. It's his money, I suppose. For the first goal, for the first goal, ball comes over the top. Crestes probably doesn't know the man's behind him, doesn't jump for it, doesn't try for it, and I think Will Ferry should maybe shout for Crestes to tell him that the boy's there. He doesn't. And the boy's just got a free header on goal and he takes it. Sapsford manages then to get through one-on-one with the keeper and he opens up far too early. Keeper's able to read it really easily and makes an easy save. Sapsford should really be hitting it a bit sooner, try and catch the keeper off guard. For someone's second, I thought the keeper should probably do better. He spills it. It's headed down low towards him, right in front of him. But he drops it into the centre of the box and Bacchus is there just to slot it away. At the end, United had a couple of chances. Fata missing with a header from a corner and Sibbald taking a shot from outside the box, power, and hits the crossbar. So I don't think we created enough chances to win the game. Seemed like St Mirren were the better team overall. That's 0 wins and 6 for United now. 1 win in 10. Something's not right, and it needs to change quickly because we're getting drawn into this relegation battle, and it's worrying.
See, I could understand where you're coming from when you think that there's potential for a relegation battle to happen because you're so engrossed and so within your own thoughts and feelings about it being your team, and you can't see anything but negatives at the moment because they've not been playing very well. And at first, to be fair, like, you guys will have noticed it because you guys live and breathe United, but for people who don't, it was a bit of an under the radar slump, but it's definitely been picked up on now, and they are within a slump and they need to get out of it sooner rather than later. But I just think that when it comes to it, United will have a bit too much quality to get relegated. I'm not saying that they won't be down and fighting and might have a poor season by the standards of what they were expecting at the beginning of it, but I always felt like this season would be difficult for United at the beginning of it, purely based on two things. One, I think the main thing is because they're going into a new season with a whole host of new players, effectively a new squad, never mind a new 11, and they're all from all over the place. Now, good players don't take long to settle. I've said that in the past, but it's a difficult one when you've got loads of boys coming from loads of different places. Maybe they don't speak the same language, whatever. And the other one was, in my opinion, you overachieved last season. You came up from the Championship, you had a bit of momentum, had a bit of a feel-good factor, and it just carried on and on and on. And you'll probably remember yourself last season, people kept saying, well, their bubble's going to have to burst sometime, and it just never really ever seemed to completely burst. You'd have the odd bad result here and there, but you'd always pick up again, and you managed to get yourself into Europe off the back of that. And I think it was a bit of an overachievement given some of the players that you had in that team. So I felt like this season would be a bit more difficult for United, but I think at some point they'll both pick up enough results and enough points to get themselves comfortably away from relegation.
Yeah, that's a fair synopsis, I think. You're right, but we did overachieve last season. And coming into a new season, you're not going to know if the players you sign are of the quality required to push on. And I think we're finding out they're probably... There's players there that have definitely got ability. But it just seems like they're not able to click at the moment, despite probably being superior players to what we had last season. And as you say, bringing in a host of different nationalities is going to be harder for players to gel and connect, coming from different leagues in different countries where football's played differently. It will be difficult for them to adapt. And Scotland's not exactly a forgiving league. It's very physical, very end-to-end, fast-paced. And it'll take players a lot of time to get used to that. So yeah, I think your analysis there is pretty spot on, to be honest.
And look, I know that everybody and every fan of every team in the world wants their team to do as best as they feel they can, and sometimes I feel like some teams have this expectation of themselves as a club where they should do better than what they probably should, and then there's other teams' fans who think that they will probably end up doing worse than they probably will. It's just one of them, and I think United this season, like, I'm not saying that United are a smaller club than like your likes of Motherwells and some of the teams that are above them. Obviously, they're not as big a club as Celtic and Rangers, Hearts, whatever. But United have obviously, this is their second season back. They're still finding stability, whether it's their second season back or not. Motherwell have stability. They've been in the Premier League for about 50 years. Kilmarnock have got stability now. They've been back in the Premier League for 4 or 5 years. Dundee should be beginning to get that stability, but they went and chucked away every single player from last season and started again. But that's the Dundee way. St Mirren, they've been in the league for 5, 6, 7 years now, so they're stable. Like, all these clubs who are doing well now, I know that St Mirren have been doing very well and they've picked themselves up a bit recently, but I think it's, for United, the first two seasons back in the Premier League's all about stability now. Because of last season and doing so well, that's kind of made that a wee bit, that vision a wee bit fuzzy. But if United were to finish mid-table this season, that's still a good season for United. A mid-table finish and a wee bit of a cup run in the Scottish, and I don't think you could have much complaints.
Yeah, you're right. I think the expectations have been set for last season for us to push on and go on good runs. I think stability now we're a quarter of the way, halfway through the season. I think stability is something we need to look at rather than finishing top 6, getting into Europe, whatnot. I think finishing 7th, 8th, 9th, you're still in the league for next season, and it gives you a chance to build on what you have this season. We never really had that last season with the European run. We're getting to Europe, sorry. We got rid of a lot of players, brought in a lot of new ones, and there's not that continuity. And that's what I said about Falkirk in previous episodes. I think they would do really well because they've got that continuity and they've got the players there, the same faces. Okay, it's not exciting, but they know what to do and what's required to get the results. And I think by bringing in a lot of these new players, like Dundee, like United, you're going to struggle to get the results with them being their first season in the league. So yeah, we'll just have to see how it goes hopefully we can get out of the slump soon and start picking up results and push us up the table a wee bit.
You've got Dundee soon, mate. Don't worry about it. You've absolutely no problem. That if you can get to that game, then you'll get out your slump. That's absolutely no problem for United.
I hope so.
But all in all, a pretty poor game on Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah, mate. Just nothing. Like, didn't really offer much at all. To Milan were probably the deserved winners, and now we just need to move on to next week, and hopefully we can get a result against Real Madrid.
Well, they're certainly turned into Real Madrid.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe eating a wee bit of humble pie, but nah, you need to stick to your guns, I suppose. I'll move on though to Dundee now. When I was saying earlier on in the podcast about how obviously they got their first win in a while when they played St Mirren last week, you then go to Celtic Park and you're hoping just to get a do, and obviously picking up a point or winning would be amazing, but just didn't get an absolute hammer and knock all the stuff in out of us completely from the momentum that we were hoping to build after our win against St Mirren. And then you notice that you look at the fixture list and they're playing Aberdeen and you just think, ugh. Because like I said last week and like I've said on a few times previously, it's death taxes and Aberdeen beating Dundee. No matter how good we are, no matter how bad we are, no matter how good they are or how bad they are, they turn up and beat us every single time. And don't get me wrong, I don't think over the piece Dundee played all that badly, but they just need to stop giving themselves mountains to climb. They need to stop shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, some of the goals that they were conceding at the weekend were absolutely criminal. The first goal, the boy Hamilton loses the ball in the middle of the park. They break. The boy has a pretty tame shot for 18 yards, something like that. And I'm not saying that John McCracken should land on it or catch it or smother it or whatever, but he certainly should have done what he'd done, and it was parry it right into the middle of the box for another Aberdeen player to come in and stoke it into an effective empty net. And I don't know if you've watched the highlights of this game, but I've not seen the highlights either. It probably won't have been included. Previous to that, I don't know how long, maybe 5-10 minutes previous to that, the Aberdeen left winger got down the side and hit it across the face of the goal. And McCracken did exactly the same thing. He parried it into the middle of the box. Now, I'm no goalkeeper, but I'm pretty sure when you watch any analysis of any goalkeeper ever on telly, they say, parry it away from your goal.
Yeah.
And he's two of them in a row. I mean, John McCracken's actually been alright this season. I'm probably one of his biggest critics. He's actually been half decent this season, but he just consistently lets him down with small errors like that make a big difference. Like the one in the derby where he dives over the ball and gets beat his near post. Though that one on Saturday, the one at Hibs where it was hit at him and he jumped out the way of the ball, he's had a couple of howlers as well. I think that I can't remember off the top of my head. It's just not really great, to be honest with you.
So
but
it's I think with that though, it's just a case of confirmation bias, because when it happens to a striker and he makes a mistake, you're not really going to notice it. But when the goalie makes a mistake, it's more than not going to lead to a goal, and then you pick up on that more often. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate.
I do get that. It's going to be, as I said, a lot of time this season. It's going to be a long season for Dundee. They just need to get through it without getting themselves relegated. If that means that they have to go into the playoffs and they have to survive through the playoffs, then so be it. They just need to survive this season. Well, at the moment, they just need to survive through to January, because if they can get to January without getting detached or going bottom of the league or whatever, and then they could add 2 or 3 or 4 players with a bit of quality that's going to improve them as a team, then that would be a massive bonus, because they really, 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 really need it. I mean, I'm just having a look through their fixtures earlier on, leading up to January. So this weekend they're away to Livy, then they're away to Motherwell, then they're at home to Falkirk, then they're at home to Killie. That's the 13th, 20th, 27th and 30th. The 13th, the 20th, the 27th and the 30th. And then obviously after that's the 3rd, they're at Tannadice to play United. So a lot of big games in there, especially if you take away Motherwell. They've got Livingston away on Saturday, and then after Motherwell they've got Falkirk and Kilmarnock at home within 3 days of each other. Now, obviously Falkirk have had a few good results recently and they've managed to pick up a few points, but I do think that Falkirk they'll have probably had their peak of this season. I think they'll probably be alright in terms of relegation, but I think they will kind of float around the top half of the bottom 6 this season. But if you're Dundee, you need to be targeting games like that at Dens, and they've got Kilmarnock at Dens, and Kilmarnock are really struggling as well. I think if you were to go Livy away, Kilmarnock at home, Kilmarnock at home and Falkirk at home, if you were to say 5 points minimum from that, you get your point away at Livy, a point at home to Falkirk, and a win against Killie. But really, you should be targeting at least 7. You win your 2 home games and get a point at Livy. I feel like if you can draw your away games against the teams around you and beat them at home, that gives you a great chance.
Yeah, I think Dundee have got a lot of tough upcoming games. Games you need to be winning. I think 7 points is what should be expected of you. Like you say, I think you should be beating Livy. Despite being away from home, I think they've won once all season. That was the second game of the season, so they're not doing well at all. Kelly, I don't know. Coming from a United point of view, Kelly are Barcelona. They'll beat us every week. So if we played them 36 games in a season, they'd beat us 36 games in a season. But from like a Dundee point of view, yeah, you could probably hope for a win there. Their form's not great. Falkirk, tough game. They've been quite consistent this season. They've had a wee purple patch recently. And Motherwell are flying, so you may struggle there. Yeah, I think for the Aberdeen game in general, I think Aberdeen were obviously on top. A couple of poor mistakes for Dundee. I think, as you mentioned earlier, Hamilton were a really poor pass leading to their first. And I think for the second, it was poor as well.
Yeah, it was at 4-2 though, man.
Yeah, second as well. No Dundee player switched on quick enough, and the boy manages to get on the rebound and slot it into the back of the net. I think it's actually mentioning what you mentioned a few weeks ago when I first started doing this podcast. Really mentioned how Dundee can't deliver any good set pieces. I think you've scored more set pieces than you have goals from out the normal field of play. So
that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, because it seems to be every goal you've scored recently has been a set piece. But yeah, I think it's like as you mentioned, death taxes and Aberdeen beating Dundee. It's kind of expected, but obviously you go into next weekend against Livy, you should be getting their points there, and maybe that puts you on a good wee run.
Well, you've got to hope so anyway. But the game on Saturday, I mean, Aberdeen could have been out of sight in the first half, and obviously the 2 goals were never caught again, but they could have been even further ahead than that. Dundee in the second half, they rallied a bit. They had a spell after they scored their own goal where they had 2 or 3 really good chances, and on another day they might have got their equaliser, a couple of good blocks, a couple of poor touches in the box that led to poor passes, which then ended promising moves. They just didn't look like they're ever going to score. If something doesn't happen from Congreve or Ugan, then they just don't look like they're ever going to score. And I was saying this to a couple of people around me on Saturday. The boy Ugan has got the hardest bit of football nailed. He breezes past people. He absolutely breezes past people, but his delivery into the box is so poor, and that'll hopefully come for him within his career. But the delivery into the box needs to improve. And then one thing that I noticed, and this is what I was saying to people around me, is because of the way that he goes by people, and his crosses are usually right on the byline because he'll knock the ball round and then he'll get to the ball again at pace to deliver it. 99% of the time, his cross is going back post, and nobody's ever at the back post. They're always running forward to the front post or the middle, and then the ball goes over the top of everybody, and the move breaks down. I don't understand why people like Simon Murray, the right winger Congreve coming in to support a late midfield run, aren't recognising that, and they're thinking, you know what? See, for the next 2 or 3 crosses he puts in the box, I'm going to gamble at the back post.
I think that could be a tactical issue. I think Presley should be spotting that as well and telling them, look, go run to the back post because that's where Ugan's putting it. And he'd be putting it on a platter for you, but the boys aren't making the run, so that could be a tactical issue.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. I mean, they're obviously told to make runs into certain positions or something. I'm not too sure, but yeah, you're certainly right there. Anyway, moving on to the score prediction challenge. Now, Jack, you might be struggling in another challenge we're doing, but you're flying in this one. As I'll get up the scores from the last 2 match days. So, midweek was obviously Celtic versus Dundee. We both predicted Celtic victories. I predicted 4-0, Jack predicted 2-0. The match turned out to be a 1-0 Celtic victory, so we both scored a point there. As for Dundee United versus Rangers, I went for a 2-1 Rangers victory and Jack went 1-1-all. With it being 2-all, you picked up another point, Jack. As for the weekend, I went with a 2-all draw between Dundee and Aberdeen and Jack went 5-0.
No far off.
A wee bit off. 3-1 Aberdeen full-time score, so another point picked up. And finally, the St Mirren versus Dundee United game, which was a 2-0 victory for St Mirren. I went 2-1 United and Jack went 1-0 United, so no points picked up there. That leaves us with a total of Andrew on 5 and Jack on 8. That's after game week 8. So moving on to game week 9. Jack, you've got a 3-point lead.
Happy days.
Happy days indeed. But we'll move on and we will cover those upcoming games. Now, as you briefly touched on, Jack, you're playing against Real Madrid at the weekend. How are you looking forward to that?
I think we'll get an absolute doing, mate. Nah, all jokes aside, Motherwell are on pretty good form just now. I think they're third in the league. They've picked up a lot of points recently, undefeated in December. And that's including wins against Hibs. I think they've maybe played Aberdeen as well this month, so they're obviously doing pretty well. United not on a great run of form at the moment, as we mentioned earlier. I think it could be another long afternoon for us, but we just got to hope there's a Jim Goodwin master plan in there somewhere.
See, it doesn't seem like many teams have managed to figure out Motherwell yet.
Yeah.
But I definitely think if you can get in and around the boy Watt, he seems to be their linchpin. He's having a good season, him. But obviously they've got 2 or 3 really good players. They've got flying wingers, Maswinise, Reagan Charles Cook. The boy Side's a good player. Elijah Just, or Elijah, or however you pronounce it. Just, he's a good player. The boy Welsh is having a really good season. If I was Sarah, I'd be recalling him. Can't be any worse than some of the centre-halves they've got.
True.
So, yeah, they're certainly having a good season after us taking the ball. Not so much you, but me taking the mickey out of them at the beginning. And to be honest with you, it was never really them I was taking the mickey out of. Because fair play to them, they have been excellent. It was more the reaction of certain corners of Scottish football podcasts, we all know which one, and some journalists speaking about them, and they're sitting there with their trousers around their ankles because they've passed the ball around the back four or 5 times. It's just a nonsense. It's like we've never seen people passing the ball in Scottish football before.
Yeah, it's not a style of football that's commonly played in Scotland, but it seems to be working out for them, and fair play. The new coach has done really well. I think it took a wee while for them to get going, but they're picking up results now, and it could continue for a wee while yet.
The thing is, and I'm not saying for a second, by the way, that I think Motherwell are going to win the league. But if anyone that's no Celtic or Rangers are going to win the league this season, are ever going to win the league, it's going to be this season, because the two of them are toilet. Celtic are shite and Rangers are shite. So if anyone's going to win the league, it's probably going to be Hearts. But if Motherwell can continue on the form that they're in and continue picking up results, then you never know, I suppose. But I don't think they've got enough about them to win the league, especially because they're a wee bit behind at the moment.
Yeah, they've not been great. Both old firm teams have been poor this season.
Hopeless, absolutely hopeless. Just before we cover the Dundee game on Saturday, we'll go through the results from the weekend, which was Dundee 1, Aberdeen 3, Hibernian 3, Falkirk 0, Motherwell 3, Livingston 0, St Mirren 2, Dundee United 0, Kilmarnock 0, Rangers 3. Did you see the highlights of the game? Of that?
I never know.
No. There was a couple of suspect officiating decisions, shall we say. If you've got some time tonight, go on YouTube and watch the offside that Kilmarnock had in the first half. Bruce Anderson must have been about 3 yards inside his own half and he got given his offside.
Oh my God. Honestly. Against Rangers though, what'd you expect, mate?
I mean, honestly. And on Sunday, a very big result. Celtic 1, Hearts 2. No one's seen that one coming.
No, I think the new manager got it wrong. I think they supposedly played well the first half, but he played 3 centre halves and they all were left-footed. So, all the play just went down the left-hand side. I think he maybe got that wrong, setting up with 3 at the back. But his system is obviously there's loads of clips going around of him moving pieces on the tactics board and showing Callum McGregor, because I don't think he knew what was going on either. But it's going to take a while for his tactics to set in, so it could give Hearts a chance to pull ahead a wee bit, to be honest.
Well, with Celtic being in the League Cup final next week, they could be 6 points behind by the time they play again. And my prediction of Celtic being top of the league for Christmas might be way off. But given the nature of the Futbology, not the Futbology challenge, the scoreline challenge that we're doing, people might say that my predictions are way off every time.
Very true.
But moving on to the Dundee against Livingston game on Saturday, I think what they usually describe that as a bit of a 6-pointer. If Dundee can go to Livingston on Saturday and win, then they really put a big bit of daylight. I think it's 4 points at the moment. If it goes to 7, you're really hoping that you can not get caught again by them, because, as you say, they've won one league game all season. It was the second game of the season at home to Falkirk. Falkirk are still finding their feet in the league. Livingston obviously had a good record against them last season, continued that on into this season. They've picked 4 points off them. That was their only victory, as far as I'm aware. So it's I think it's going to be a very difficult game. They always are against David Martindale's sides. They'll be right up for it. I'm not wanting to go down the route of it's Livingston. They'll be physical hammer throwers. They've obviously got players who can play as well. The pitch is obviously a bit of a leveller. It's going to be a very tricky game. I think it's going to be a very tense afternoon. And hopefully we can get those 3 points. But I don't think a draw is the worst result in the world either.
No, a draw's not a terrible result, but I think Dundee should be expecting to get a win there. Obviously, we're going to do our score prediction shortly for it, but I think Dundee have probably got enough to get maybe more than a point. But I think a point you take it anyway, because it's more points on the board. potentially moves you up the table as well, especially if teams around you get beat. So I don't think a point's a terrible result.
No, probably not. But since we're discussing and looking into that, we'll do a score prediction. So United at home to Motherwell, Jack. What do you think?
I'm going to go 2-0 Motherwell.
Okay. So I'm thinking 1-1. Okay, so you're going to go 2-0 and I'm going to go 1-1. What about the Dundee against Livingston game now? I think it will be... You know what? I've went negative towards my own team for a few weeks now. I'm going to go 2-1 Dundee.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Well, you can go with that as well.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to go 2-1 as well.
Okay. So you've went 2-0 Motherwell and 2-1 Dundee, and I've went with 1-1 with United and Motherwell and 2-1 Dundee. So that's that locked in. That's that written down, and we'll have to look back at that on next week's episode. But we'll move on to the Futbology Challenge. Now, the Futbology Challenge for, I think, the third week in a row now hasn't been very much of a challenge because no one's got any games apart from me. So, yet another week where Martin and Jack pick up the 1-0 forfeit defeat. I took the choice of two games. One of them was a victory and one of them was a defeat. Jack done the random number generator and he gave me my victory. So that's 3 wins in a row for me, I think. My luck seems to be changing at the moment. And ironically, the game that I never got, which was a defeat, was a game against Aberdeen. And I was absolutely convinced that they were going to haunt me yet again for the second time in the space of as many days. But it wasn't to be. So the 2007-2008 season has proved fruitful for me yet again. It was a game from the 8th of December 2007, a game against Stirling Albion at Dens. There was a crowd of 3,590. The managers Alec Ray and Alan Moore, and the starting 11s that Dundee was Craig Sampson, David Worrell, Gary McKenzie, Milan Palaniuk, Eddie Malone, Paul McHale, Scott Robertson, Kevin MacDonald, Gavin Swankie, Jan Zemelik and Yanni Sturm. And on the bench, Ludovic Roy, Freddie Darquin, Paul Dixon, Bob Davidson and Derek Lyle. As for Stirling Albion, what's their nickname, Jack, Stirling Albion?
The Binos.
That's it, the Beanos. So Stirling Albion was Miles Hogarth, Laurie Ellis, Andy Graham, Stephen Bell, Stuart Devine, Ross Forsyth, Craig Reid, Chris Aitken, John Paul McBride, Colin Cram and David McKenna. And on the bench, Scott Christie, Ross Harris, Paul Hay, Marek Tomana and Nicky Walker. The scorers were Robertson 56, McDonald 60 and Lyle 66 with Bell on 89. So, the table, I think it was only about 2, maybe 3 weeks ago that we were thinking that Martin was out of sight. That victory puts me within 2 points of him. And Jack's now trailing me by 5. So, obviously, as you listen on YouTube, the results will have been on screen as well as the league table. We've all played 18 games. Martin's on 19 points, I'm on 17 and Jack's behind at the bottom on 12. So it's a bit of a relegation battle for Jack.
Yeah, it might not be here next year.
Relegated, that'll just be me on the podcast.
Yeah.
But that brings the end to this week's Sandeman Street Podcast. It's a bit of a short one this week. We're battling against time, but we wanted to bring out as much as we can. Next week will be episode 24, if I'm right in saying, and then obviously we'll do as many as we can in the build up to Christmas. Over Christmas and New Year, things might change in terms of how we can bring out episodes. We'll obviously be hoping to do another Dundee Derby special in the build-up to the game on January the 3rd, but we'll work that out closer to the time. So, just a final message, if you could follow us on our socials, that is at SandemanSTPod on Twitter, at SandemanSTPod, and on Instagram we are at the Sandeman Street Pod, at the Sandeman Street Pod. We're obviously on YouTube as well. You could find that through our Linktree, which is on both our social media platforms. Subscribe to our channel if you can, like our videos, that would be much appreciated. So from myself and from Jack, thanks very much and have a great weekend. Cheers.